Hello, and welcome to another episode of What's on the Pile. I guess it's an episode. It's kind of just where we talk about movies every so often as friends and use what knowledge we have of film history and film creation uh, in order to, I don't know, form our views. Anyway, I'm Nate. Shane,
Hey,
Jenner, Wagner might pop in later. Not sure yet, but we'll see.
yeah,
Either
we're enjoying the looseness of the format at this point.
yeah,
It's
yeah, it's a lot more
it's
fun.
a little bit like the sort of the original experience that we had of the program is it's kind of a stand-in for a social life as much as it is actually like an internet-based television program or anything to that extent.
It's
Um,
yeah, it's not. It's just something, and
yeah, if we have an audience in any case, we're very happy to have you with us.
yeah. Anyway, tonight we will be discussing the first two in the Heisei series of Godzilla films. I really wanted Wagner on for this one. I'm sure he'll come back
Maybe he'll
later.
show up. Yeah.
The first one is The Return of Godzilla, or Godzilla 1985 in the U.S., even though it was 1984, but you know. Um,
Sometimes referred to as Godzilla 1984, but
yeah, occasionally. um,
occasionally. Excuse me.
Pardon. And that happens too. Followed by Godzilla versus Biollante. Return of Godzilla is kind of a kicking off point for what is known as the Heisei series, which is the Heisei Emperor's period of Japan, which was previously the Showa era. And the Showa era ended with the return of Godzilla, technically. But everybody puts that Return of Godzilla, even though it's technically in the Showa. Maybe it's not Showa. Is it Showa at that point? Does it go from Showa to Heisei? I do not remember. I'm bad with my Japanese history like that.
In the absence of the direct knowledge of Japanese history, just as sort of the Westerners' view of film history, I believe that Gojira 1984 or the 1984 Gojira, aka Return of Godzilla, the movie that was re-edited into Godzilla 1985, etc.,
Yeah.
is considered the beginning of the Heisei era. It's
Yeah.
not really thought of as being of a piece with the Showa era, which I guess ended with was it Terror of Mechagodzilla or Godzilla versus uh,
Terror of Mechagodzilla, I'm pretty sure, because it was super violent, 1975.
Godzilla versus Megalon, the Jun Fukuda years. That was it.
Mm.
Uh, yeah,
Obviously,
Godzilla
don't
versus
know anything
Megalon,
about
then
this.
Terror of Mechagodzilla. Yeah, and then they were done for a while.
Anyway, yeah, yes, you have confirmed what I thought by restating it. Um, uh,
So again, yeah, we don't know, but still,
yeah, yeah, yeah. Uh,
sorry.
yeah, it's the start of the Heisei period.
Just thinking through the problem. Just thinking through the problem.
But it's interesting to see between this film and Biollante, which is much more in line with the films that come afterward, how much changed between the two. There was a 5 year period between the two films, I believe, where they continued trying to come up with new ideas for the follow up and couldn't come up with it, and it didn't feel like the right time. And eventually, they did come up with something, and it was Godzilla versus Biollante. But at that point, they had decided to take some of the criticisms to heart and fix the shoddy head work in Return of Godzilla. The uh, it's much nicer in Biollante, in my opinion, and um, the eyes. The eyes don't look as goofy. They look kind of just pissed off. They're not like sinister or even angry. It's a scowl. It is a scowl. It's the only scowling Godzilla. And just kind of walking in a straight line like there's a building, I'll walk through it. I'm a cat, whatever. And
Fuck your overpass.
yeah. I'm a fan of that Godzilla. I'm a
Yeah.
big fan of that Godzilla. So, Shane, You
Yep.
have not even seen Showa Godzilla. We
No.
skipped over that, and we're
Yeah,
starting you with Heisei.
so I mean, I watched Return of Godzilla with Nate, and I think I asked you at the time, like before this, between this and or between the original and this, I mean, they were sort of like B movies, right? Or like very low budget, like what would have been straight to video. I don't know how what the releases were like back then, right? Because this one, even Return to Godzilla, didn't really feel like that. Didn't have that feeling.
They are all major theatrical releases in Japan,
Okay.
like top 10, kind of like usually number one or number two. Biollante got killed by Back to the Future Part 2.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, these would be these two Godzilla movies are my third and fourth Japanese Godzilla movies ever, respectively.
You are so weird, Shane.
So like Godzilla one, and then Godzilla minus one, or Godzilla not Godzilla one, but got the original, and then Godzilla minus one, and then these two. Um, and then I've seen all the like the American ones or whatever you call it. I guess they're American or
The Monsterverse,
yeah.
because everything
Um,
has to be a verse now. I mean, like Godzilla's not a sure, it's a shared universe that there are other movies that are spin-offs of, but nobody calls it that. It's just Toho Studios.
I've heard it referred to as the Toho-verse.
Yeah, in like the last 3 years.
Well,
Not
no, I mean, going back to, well, I mean, I know I mentioned it when we were talking last time. Always Sunset on Third Street 2, which of course began with the 1954 attack of Godzilla on Tokyo, because they reached 1954, and that's what happened in 1954 in the Toho-verse. That's like an isolated bit of phrasing. I haven't really actually heard it outside of that particular
Wait,
context
where did
for a
you
while.
read that? Did you read it?
Yeah, no. When I first stumbled across Always Sunset on Third Street 2 in the first place, back around, I don't
What
know,
is no, no, I mean
something
like
like
where did
2012.
you read the word Tohoverse?
In a description of Always Sunset on Third Street 2.
Okay, just somebody who wrote a description.
Yeah,
That's your entire okay. All right, okay. We can move on.
we can move on.
you know, when we were watching this at
It's not
Nate's, I think
isolated. Come on.
I've mentioned this a few times on the podcast where I have like think I have mild face blindness when it comes to Asian movies with all Asian casts. I repeatedly asked Nate, like, there's two guys, there's this guy in the boat, and then the journalist guy. I kept getting them mixed up. I kept asking Nate, is this that guy? Is this that guy? And then when we jumped to the second movie, I thought one of the guys at the beginning was one of the guys from the first movie. So yeah, I just have trouble keeping people straight when they're all Japanese or Chinese.
To be fair, Godzilla movies from the Heisei period on kind of just do that. They like will cast characters that are similarly motivated and look slightly different because it's a different person, but they just look slightly different and they have a whole new name and shit. That happens a lot in the Millennium series. Like you don't even know they're separated until you really think about it. It's just sharing the same Godzilla form.
Yeah, I mean, the Millennium series is basically an anthology anyway.
So
For
what?
the
So what?
Mm.
So for those of us like me, what's the Millennium like? I don't know.
The the Millennium series starts with Godzilla 2000 and goes all the way to Godzilla Final Wars. It's a bunch of movies that are kind of one-offs, except for two movies that are tied together in the middle there, uh, which are my two favorites. I love them so much.
When they're making these movies, are they do they know that they're in this era? Do they are they of a whole with other movies in that era, or is this just sort of retroactively we're grouping them together?
No, 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 they
Does that make sense? That question makes sense.
it's probably retroactively grouping them together, to be completely honest.
I'm just curious.
I think it's just a way to categorize them, and that's probably I don't know who started it, categorizing them that way. I imagine it came from Japan and possibly even Toho in like marketing material or something. I can imagine Japanese marketing material for a film putting something like that in the marketing material, like putting Showa at the top or something like that. I don't know. I'm just theorizing. It could be, I don't know.
Could be a genuine meme.
Yeah,
And when Showa is like not just the movies, it's like the social era of the nation, right?
it's the
Okay,
emperor's time,
okay.
reign,
Lorraine.
period. I don't know. I never know how to refer to it, and I think that's what it is. I'm not good at my Japanese history. That's basically all I know.
So like King of the Monsters would be like Trump era Godzilla, and then now we have like Godzilla versus Kong is Biden era. The original
Didn't
with
have to
Bryan
go there,
Cranston was
Holmes.
maybe Obama. I can't remember. I don't know if I'm
No.
getting the year. I don't know if I'm getting the years or presidents right, but going by memory.
No, I think so. It's just I don't like the way that looks at all.
I think we can rate Godzilla movies individually and rate them within their time periods. That's usually how I do it.
I think
Because
the current U.S. ones are most often referred to as the legendary Godzillas.
they were until they changed it to MonsterVerse in the marketing material. Now it's MonsterVerse.
Fair
Just
enough.
think about like all the Apple ads for what's it?
Is that Apple show part of the MonsterVerse? Are they?
What the hell's it called? We both watched it.
Oh, Monarch.
Monarch, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were like part of the MonsterVerse and shit like that.
Forced meme as opposed to genuine.
Correct. Yeah.
Yes.
It's a label now that people the dark universe, this universe, that universe.
I love the Dark Universe. I mean, I love what happened to it. I've never seen The Mummy. I just think it's hilarious what happened to the Dark Universe.
They took that picture and everything.
Yeah, I remember that picture.
I think they're trying to bring it back as a theme park.
What a failed idea. Very always makes me laugh.
And I actually liked the Tom Cruise Mummy more than most, but yeah, that was
I thought it was
trying too hard.
I thought the idea of, I guess it was supposed to be Russell Crowe as Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, was he sort of supposed to be like the Nick Fury that was
Yeah.
sort of like the anchor? I thought that was kind of a fun idea. I don't know if Russell Crowe's who I would have chosen, but
Crowe actually had a lot of fun with the role, but yeah, that's kind of what happens with Russell Crowe these days. He has fun with what they give him. I mean,
Yeah.
like consider The Pope's Exorcist. Bad movie. He's great though. there are few things in modern acting as wonderful as Russell Crowe affecting a ridiculously broad Italian accent, except maybe Adam Driver affecting a ridiculously broad Italian accent. But that's
is it worth watching for his performance alone?
Pope's Exorcist?
Especially if you don't have to pay for it.
Okay.
I was gonna watch it, but then it seemed kind of lengthy for what I wanted that night. So
now, The Exorcism, not to be confused with The Pope's Exorcist, or a sequel to The Pope's Exorcist, but nevertheless with Russell Crowe, I'm actually still quite curious about. I just haven't heard anything really particularly definitive one way or the other on it yet.
Well, Shane, I'm curious what you thought of, because I got to watch Return of Godzilla with you, and I know you generally liked it. It was
yeah, generally, I did note there was like there were really like only 2 scenes with Godzilla in it.
Yeah.
And I mean, is that usually like a budget thing? Like going into Biollante, it seemed almost it was going to be the same structure, but then there was a lot more eventually, because it seemed like there was a scene where Godzilla shows up about halfway through the movie, pissed off, wrecks shit, and then there's a fight at the end. But there was more in Biollante.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was. I mean, it was fun watching with you because I could just ask you questions. Yeah, I mean, it's generally enjoyable.
But what did you think of Biollante?
I thought the design of Biollante was really cool. I would have liked. So there's this whole emotional through line, right, with Erica being Biollante, but she dies so fast.
Yeah.
Like she dies before we get to know her. I mean that was kind of I thought I would have liked more of that so I would care more, as opposed to just being like, oh, this monster's really cool. I remember seeing you got a huge Biollante model in your house.
Yeah.
So I was excited to see that, or I was excited to see it in the movie after seeing that. I mean, I thought it was enjoyable. I liked the score a lot. It felt very like John Williams at times.
If not James Horner.
Yeah, that
or, or
too.
or kind of, I don't know, someone working for Roger Corman imitating James Horner imitating John Williams.
And yeah, and when you were speaking about Godzilla having better eyes, he was more expressive. There's a scene at the end
Mhm.
where Biollante starts evolving and attacks, and Godzilla has this like "what the fuck" look on his face before he gets wrecked,
Yeah.
which I don't think they could have done in the first one because he did have those like toy looking like eyes that we were kind of we kind of like joked about during the movie a little bit.
Yeah. I always forget he has those bug eyes in Return of Godzilla.
Yeah. I did get a little lost in Biollante with all the different side characters. Like who the hell is that cool looking beard guy? I don't. He just
Okay.
shows up and snipes people. Like I was a little bit lost. There was. Did I mishear this? This part wasn't subtitled because when they speak English, it's subtitled in Japanese. Did it? So there's the white guy and the black guy running around. Did the black guy yell "God damn, we're a lethal weapon" at some point during a shootout?
I think he said we're in Lethal Weapon.
Okay, so he did say lethal weapon.
He said I think he said lethal.
That,
One of the things about this movie is that the English in it is indecipherable.
Yes, especially as I'm used to watching subtitles, but now the subtitles aren't for me, and I can't hear what they're saying.
I couldn't understand.
it's a consistent thing all the way through the Heisei era movies, as well as really weird cultural references.
Mhm.
Like the absolute standout, of course, being maybe remember this to your son, Captain Spielberg from Godzilla versus King Ghidorah
Yeah.
or
Wh-
Ghidorah.
Will
Uh,
will which is what comes after Biollante and we'll be watching for next time.
Always worth remembering that bit, though. The
Yeah.
cult, the of the mo the so not of the moment cultural references,
Yeah.
uh,
And
are kind
I
of a fun through line in this series.
Beard guy in particular uh was amazing to me because he did not sound like I don't know what he was trying to say ever. But it was not English and I guess that's what he was trying to do, but he was a horrible sniper all the way through. His death was one of the most comedic moments in the entire. It was just like
I think he was with the what was the nation called? Like Sardinia, not
Sard.
Sardinia,
I think it was Sardinia.
No,
Sardinia.
Sardinia.
it's something like that.
But he was with them, right?
Sardinia.
Yeah,
He was with
Sardinia.
their
Yeah.
government. He was like an agent for them or something. That's yeah.
I mean,
Anyway,
given that Godzilla is always, to some extent, sort of a Deus ex machina figure in Godzilla movies in the first place, one of the interesting things that we started to see in the Heisei era movies was competing Deus ex machinas. Like that sniper character who just kind of keeps appearing out of nowhere with his own distinct agenda. James Bond villaining all over the place and then fucking off until something else happens. Um,
And the
I
I
remember.
think the director was on record that he was as
Yep.
much trying to make a James Bond movie as he was trying to make a Godzilla movie, which is an interesting approach.
He was just
Um,
really into James Bond at the time.
and at the same time, we end up seeing a lot of this hybridization sort of approach coming in later on. The particular standout, of course, being way at the other end of the modern era, with Final Wars being basically oh god, like a fighting team movie. What the hell is the word that I'm looking for?
Sentai? Or
Sentai, yeah,
Yeah,
basically trying to turn the whole thing into a Sentai movie, uh,
which
with
all they did was
big
bring down
results.
the sea monster, Ebera. That's all they got. A
Yeah,
giant crustacean. Whoop-de-doo. Like Godzilla ate that dude. Ate him. Cooked him
yeah,
and ate him. And then
yeah,
threw him in the ocean without finishing him because he does that. He's just a
yeah.
piss on his grave.
He had other guys to handle.
Oh, I
Anyway,
did have a question. I did have a question about the intro to Biollante. Those alert levels that show up on screen, are those like those? Is that something that like all fans know, like the three rules of Gremlins or something like that, or is that just something that they
That's
know?
where no, they started that here. I don't know that they ever refer to alert levels again. I think they have different alert levels in every movie. Although the UNGCC, which starts coming up in the next movie, I believe, They are a through line with the Heisei, so you'll stick with the same organization generally. They're like Nerve,
Okay,
but good.
Is it Mechagodzilla where they start calling it G-Force?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I believe so. Which is a side project of the United Nations Godzilla Counter-Strike Center. We'll get to that. We'll get to it.
We'll get to that. We'll get
yeah.
to
I
that.
could explain my tattoo then.
There, there,
The
there, there
important thing to note here
is that the
is
lore is
G
this deep.
cells. It is very deep. G cells. G
Yeah,
cells, everybody.
everyone's after those cells.
G cells are magical. This is the movie that introduces the concept of G cells, which will be a through line in Godzilla movies forever going forward. It just all they every series will have some kind of mention of them.
Did they
And
call them G cells in this? They just
yeah,
called them like samples or something. Okay, maybe I missed it.
yeah, they're calling them G cells. G cells. It even writes it at one point on the screen. G cells. It's really funny.
Maybe I missed that.
uh, the G cells become very important because they do create these abominations and whatnot. Now, here's the interesting thing that a lot of fans are theorizing about. Well, not a lot. It's mostly me and like a few other people I've talked to on the internet. So like four people maybe, and
A
it's
statistically significant demographic.
we I think that that thinking about G cells and how important they are to the Heisei period, and the fact that uh, there is a connection in minus one, that minus one is actually minus one to the Heisei series because of the introduction of G cells.
I will buy that. I will absolutely buy that.
Which, given all the references in minus one and what the director loves and everything, I think that is a possibility. I think that is a massive possibility. All I know is that he knows where it's going, and I like that.
Yeah, no, that's I like that a lot.
Yeah, I didn't even when I watched minus one, I didn't even notice that there was a mark on her.
Mhm.
I think Nate told me about it.
And at the
Yeah,
same time, the introduction of the G cells kind of anticipated uh, a lot of sort of monster as infectious agent movies that followed. It was actually originally supposed to be a plot line in William Gibson's Alien 3 script
yeah.
a few around or a couple of years later, but it ended up really crossing over into the Alien movies just in general with the likes of Prometheus and that sort of thing. Just as kind of a standout example of this aspect of this monster spawning abominations in its own right.
The evolution of each creature, it's also very Japanese, like anime and whatnot. Like, I am going to take my second form now. Ah! And that's kind of what they do in Godzilla movies. But it does introduce another concept that is carried through either referentially or intentionally throughout all the series, which is quick evolution, making these creatures unkillable, essentially, and that they can only kill each other. There's nothing you can really do to hurt them. Not Godzilla, at least. Godzilla had to die from within. We'll get to that.
But certainly an idea that's carried over. I mean, particularly into the American or the legendary Godzilla movies as well. Like you know, anything we can do is just like pop gun. It's like
Mhm.
trying to shoot down a helicopter with a flashlight. Uh,
And I love Heisei because even watching Biollante, they go ballistic on him. Like at one point, there's just a big puff of cloud surrounding Godzilla, and you can see nothing. They put as much as they can into it. It's pretty vicious compared to some of the other movies that are like ping ping ping. They try with
I have
those.
to allow,
Hey,
I have to allow. I absolutely love the abject clunkiness of the Super X and the Super X2,
Yes,
and of course,
yeah.
later on the Super X3.
Well, I mean,
Wagner.
The Super X takes a laser.
Wagner.
Doesn't it take a direct hit from
Sorry
his
about that.
laser mouth thing? I don't know what it's
Well,
called.
Yeah,
that reflective thing is a great idea. I
Yeah.
mean, assuming that it's actually kind of a light-based weapon as opposed to, penetrative, frickin' alpha particles or some shit. Um, anyway,
and
Matt, welcome.
My apologies.
no problem.
Later writer.
No, no problem.
We're talking about Godzilla versus Biollante, Return of Godzilla, the whole thing, all of them. And you had not seen these?
I had not seen either of them before the request to watch them for this. I was actually really quite impressed with both of them. I was. Biollante is an interesting one, largely because he never. Biollante never shows up again in anything else, does he?
No.
This
Well,
was his
There,
solo.
I'd never
there is
even
a
heard of
reference
Biollante.
later.
the
Okay.
G cells, the like the sparkly dust that goes to space and whatnot. That's
Mm.
very important later on in the Heisei series.
Yeah,
But the Biollante
But
itself never reappears.
right,
no.
I had always gotten it mixed up with Hedora because I don't know why I equated the two of them in my mind, just
Hido-
because they're both kind
Hedora,
of
the Hedo, the smog monster, Hedora.
Smog
yeah,
monster.
the smog
This.
monster. They're both sort of nature related, although yeah, that thing. It kind of
Nate,
looks like
you should have you guys seen
well,
Nate's Biollante figure?
Oh,
Is
should
that
I
something
go
you can
get it?
no.
is that something you can easily
Yeah,
like 'cause it's
I'll
big.
grab it.
Alrighty.
I saw it. I was at Nate's a couple weeks ago. I saw it. He's like, "That's what we're watching." It's the biggest of his figures, other than like the really big Godzillas. But it's pretty
It,
cool.
I mean, it's impressive in conception, but in execution, I mean, it appears menacing and everything, but then Godzilla hits it, and it's kind of toast
It's
quickly.
like also not super mobile, I guess, because it's a plant. So
Yeah, well, it was kind of at the end. It
after it
moves,
evolves,
though we're not really sure how.
But,
That is impressive as hell.
yeah,
Wow.
and that should end up being like visual nightmare fuel on the level of the Deadly Spawn or that sort of thing. But it turns out that Biollante is one of the more likable and agreeable of the monsters from the entirety of all Godzilla continuities.
See, it had
Biollante,
Like,
the dorsal fins.
Biollante is almost a tragic figure.
is there a reason it
yeah.
has? Is there a reason it has like such an Italian sounding name
Uh,
compared to the other monsters? I was surprised when I heard the name because I've never heard of it.
I don't know what the exact translation is, but they all kind of have an offshoot of Godzilla's name
Hmm.
mixed up with what they are, what they do when they're
Or-
the original creation. So that's what I would assume is the I
they,
don't know
they are all
biology, and they like the sound of it. I really
Okay, fair
Mhm.
enough.
they are
it's
all
Japanese.
they are
Yeah.
all hiragana portmanteaus,
Yeah.
if that helps.
Yeah,
Okay.
Or sorry,
Okay.
katakana
yeah.
portmanteaus.
Which of course doesn't translate at all to English, but you kind of have
Lo-
to hold it up and explain this looks like this, and so it's kind of a joke, you know.
assemblies of loan words. I mean, consider
Mhm.
later on Destoroya, which is
Destoroyah,
Japanese
yeah.
for Destoroya, which means destroyer.
As in,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
but
Yeah,
As in
it's
the one who
called
destroyed.
Destoroyah, so
yeah, yeah.
that's what we say.
Yep,
Hmm.
that's what we say.
Hmm. And
Uh,
I know I came in the middle of this, but we were talking about the Super X and the Super X2. Had a very sort of Godzilla versus Thunderbirds aspect to it.
It
oh,
Yeah.
absolutely did.
that
Yes.
thing that thing eventually becomes this thing, and it's
Wow.
hilarious. It's a little tiny guy. I think Mogera is in this series.
Mogera turns up in
Space
Space Godzilla,
Godzilla,
I think.
right? Yeah, I
Yeah,
thought so. And then Mogera's they reuse Mogera to put it on Mechagodzilla 2's back, I think,
I believe so.
somewhere later. It's been ages since I've watched these.
Same here. Yeah, I was doing a bit of rereading the background on Wiki. That's why I'm a little bit fresh on some of this,
Mm.
but even so. Uh, Mogera, of course, previously seen in The Mysterians in 1957, uh, and turned into an acronym, which is a nice touch in its own right.
Yep.
But we'll get to that one later.
Yeah.
No,
Excuse me.
katakana for this is more for any theoretical audience that we have. Katakana is the third of the Japanese alphabets, which is used pretty strictly for loan words from other languages. So a katakana portmanteau would be an assembly of loan words from other languages. Like Gojira, for example, is a made-up word that means gorilla, or that's loosely translates as gorilla whale.
Yeah.
Um,
And has
in any
so
case,
many different origins. I've heard just so many. I know I've mentioned all the origins before.
Like in the first movie, they just sort of say it, right? It's just sort of they just call it that. There's no like origin of the name within the movie, right?
There's practically there's a literally a running gag in parodies and satires of Kaiju Iga about random characters randomly naming the monsters in question. The particular standout being the little girl from the G8 summit in Monster X Strikes Back.
Yes. It's like
I forget what they ended up calling that thing, but the X from outer space. But
So,
yeah, go ahead.
so where in Japanese pop culture did this come in relation to psychic phenomenon? Because I know this is something that goes on forever in all Japanese sci-fi, which is, the psychic girl, the psychic force, the psychic sensation. But how often do we get a psychic being used to triangulate Godzilla's position or his intent?
for the remainder of the Heisei period.
Yes.
They don't do it after that, and they don't do it before. It's strictly a Heisei thing?
Yeah.
The same girl.
Okay.
They just bring back a similar
Yeah.
girl with a similar.
No, it's Miki.
ability.
Miki is the ongoing character, the hero
Okay,
of
that's
the
cool.
Heisei series.
Okay.
There are other characters who show back up, and there are other characters' family members who show back up. Most notably, the Colonel who died in Biollante after he said, "See you later, Mr. Godzilla." What a great actor.
Which was actually a pretty cool moment for a character who knew he was going down.
Yeah, yeah.
Made me think of Spoonie from Dog Soldiers. Not quite on that level, but still.
Hilariously, all his sacrifice led to is Godzilla falling over for a minute and then picking himself right back up.
Moderately chastened, though.
Yes. Yes.
One of the things that I really liked, having seen none of these in ages, but particularly going to Return of Godzilla, was that one I always remembered, and this reminded me of that, having a very sort of Irwin Allen disaster movie feel. It reminded me a lot of Earthquake in particular.
Yeah.
They got a little bit away from that in Biollante, but I like the way that they kind of set up the miniature cities and establish that things get evacuated very, very quickly in a world in which Godzilla is an ongoing concern.
No.
So it's basically let's see what the Kumite looks like this time.
I love. Speaking of evacuation, I love. There's a scene in Osaka where there's like this. All of a sudden, there's this pop music playing. Then it just stops. It's like, oh fuck, Godzilla's here. Concert's canceled. Everyone get the hell out.
That was a very real feeling moment.
Because I was like, what is this music? And it just stops. I'm like, oh okay.
You see, I thought the music was. I didn't realize the music was diegetic at the time.
I don't know if it was, but I think
kind of being a joke and
yeah.
like here's some poppy music over shots of the city about to be destroyed. Oh wait, that's an actual pop concert going on.
There's a cheekiness running behind under the hood of this movie.
Particularly, I think the cheekiness stands out really between King Ghidorah, Mothra, and Mechagodzilla. That sort of strong core of the Heisei period.
Yeah, yeah. The Mechagodzilla in particular has some just some amazing things in it. Which one has the android? Was that Ghidorah
Uh,
or was that?
I think that was I think that was King Ghidorah. Ghidorah.
It's oh, you're in for a treat with this android.
X11 or something like that.
Okay,
There, there,
imagine
there's a
imagine a
lot of
guy
delightful
doing
stuff in
this
Ghidorah.
with like
Yes.
super fast footage behind him. That's your
there,
android. It's
yeah.
amazing.
There
Sort of
is
like
some
Ezra
delightful
Miller's
stuff in King
Flash.
Ghidorah.
Oh,
I think it's great because the kaiju battles in this series are wonderful and not treated with any sort of humor to them, even though humorous things might happen during them. It's
yeah.
they're very serious. The creatures are very serious about fighting each other, and then every single human story in every single one of these movies is hilarious. It's like this series of all the human stories in any Godzilla movies, I find some of the most entertaining because they try to do random wacky things that whoever is doing the movie has decided I'm gonna do this. They make aliens references in Destroya. It's really funny. It's
I,
yeah.
I have to say my favorite point of the human stories of these two movies has to be when the nefarious foreign question mark assassin sniper guy climbs up on top of the thunder control thing and is just
Yeah.
vaporized, and we
Yeah,
cut back to just a guy in a control booth having hit a button. It's like, well,
yeah.
shouldn't have been standing there.
I was actually
Just
confused when that
gonna go
when
with
that happened. I'm like, did he just die? He just
this. Well, that's just that moment.
Obliterated.
after all that build up, after he was such a threat the entire movie, he's just gone.
Well, we've got our heroic commander. Like, I have had enough of you. No, no, fuck you.
There's also a question in these movies that I do wonder about, specifically with regard to English, and the fact that there is a vocal delivery of even native English speakers that always comes out weird in
You must let
Godzilla
us
films.
use nuclear weapons.
Like,
It is,
are they dubbed at all? It does. I mean, Matt's right.
Nope,
It does
nope.
sound very weird.
There is a common thread in some mainstream Japanese directing where they will have people speak in English a little slower so that Japanese audiences can keep up with it.
oh,
Except, of
okay,
course,
that is
for,
a
for
reasonable
Agent
point.
What's His Mug, who was speaking, I don't know, English as though it was an Arab being delivered by a guy with a Russian accent.
Yeah, that was rough.
Yeah.
Yeah. In Biollante, everybody speaking English is indecipherable. We were actually talking about this earlier that
Yeah.
nothing anybody says in Biollante can I understand in English. I have no idea what any of them said.
No, no, there's at least one line where the no, not in Biollante. I guess it's in Return of Godzilla, where the hobo turns around and sees Godzilla out the window and goes, "Damn, Godzilla." Yes. Yes, Godzilla is here.
No,
It's not like he can.
everything.
It's not like he can sneak up on you. You know.
Snuck up on that one guy with the rocket
Uh,
launcher who for some reason decided to delay his exit from the building as Godzilla was coming up to the window behind him.
I didn't.
I'm not sure that would have helped him anyway.
Actually, now that you bring that up, I don't understand why that main couple in the first Godzilla movie didn't just go down the stairs during when Godzilla was attacking the building. Like, they hung out there for a while. I thought they were there for
Yeah.
some reason, but then eventually they just went downstairs when they decided to leave. I think we talked about this while we were
Because
watching it.
Yeah.
if you're getting killed by
It was weird.
Godzilla, you want to be facing Godzilla as opposed to be scrambling down a freaking elevator shaft or some shit like
But
that.
they were gonna have to be scrambling down an elevator shaft anyway, no matter
Well,
what.
Yeah.
that's only if they survive facing down Godzilla. You see, you face down Godzilla. If Godzilla doesn't kill you, okay, then you can go down the fire
Well,
stairs.
they were staying in that room as if there were a reason they had to be there.
Yeah, Godzilla wasn't even nearby at that point. They could have just left any time. They just sat there and then they left, and it was the same state either way.
Hmm.
It was a weird choice. I think I think something probably got messed around with the
We got
script or
something.
something. Yeah, something about
Mm,
the
mm,
helicopter going away and coming back. Something got messed up
yeah.
because it's
But
weird. No motivation to stay up there.
when you stepped away for a moment there, Nate, I was noting that out of all the times I've seen Godzilla up against another kaiju, Biollante didn't really seem to have much of a chance. Would
Yeah.
you agree with that? Or is
Yes.
it because, Biollante looks imposing, has all those tentacles, and then Godzilla just blasts the shit out of it with the
Yeah.
atomic breath,
Yeah.
and down it goes. Its only
This
real trick was coming back unexpectedly for the slasher return from the grave
It
at the
pseudo
end.
comes back in a later movie, mostly through design and reference. Like the creature of Biollante never ever comes back again, of course. But when you get to Godzilla versus Space Godzilla, it'll all tie together.
Okay. Okay.
There's reason.
Okay.
there is a through line.
Yeah.
Yes.
They actually, I mean, they didn't know where they were going. They kind of just made it up as they went along, but they made it up okay,
Yeah.
considering the type of movie these are. It's great.
I mean, I kind of love that actually, that there was a pair off between Godzilla and something else, where the something else just really did not have a chance.
Yeah.
There's a bunch of other little stories going on. I mean, is there significance in that this is the first versus after the return that's just sort of building up Godzilla more? And, you think there's another thing that could possibly beat him, but no, not even a chance. And we move on past like the normal kaiju fights to the serious ones later. Is that the attitude they're taking, or
Next up is King Ghidorah.
Also,
oh
like
well,
is this the only monster that we're supposed to care about on a human level? Like maybe that was part of it, or
I think
because she's a person, I guess.
Know
I
about that necessarily, but it is definitely a significant comment there.
I can see where they tried to do that and it
Yeah.
did not work particularly well. Like like the little Amiga 2000
Well, you mean
image
her
generator.
face at the end?
yeah.
It's a
Oh,
it's
and you know that actually happened because it cuts to everybody like
Yeah.
yeah.
Like, what the hell are we witnessing?
It feels like a slight overstatement, or think of it as a matter of degrees, but it's attempting to make a more poetic, contemplative Godzilla movie.
yeah.
Maybe. Yeah.
Do that.
It does mean, however, that her ghost
Yeah,
was approximately 3 miles wide as it ascended to heaven. But
we should all be so lucky. Uh,
yeah.
And it did not ascend to heaven, it ascended to
Yeah.
space.
it ascended
Key.
to Superman orbit.
Wait, the
Yeah.
ghost is coming back too? I thought just well, I'll find out later when I watch the other movies.
The ghost is not coming back. I'll tell you that right now.
Okay. Okay.
Um I think we can probably, unless Wagner, you had anything else you wanted to talk about, or anybody, I think we can move on from this one and start talking about movies that we have seen.
One
How does
other
everybody
little
feel?
bit.
Hmm.
Just one other little bit. So I said I hadn't seen either of these movies before. I think I have seen at least part, probably the very end of the U.S. translation of Godzilla Return,
Hmm.
which I think is Godzilla 1985. Is that
Yeah.
correct?
The one with Raymond Burr.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because Raymond Burr was not in this one.
No,
Was he?
Raymond Burr was in Godzilla 1985.
Yeah.
What? Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a
They
I don't
re-edited
remember that
version to tie it into the original
to
movie,
the original.
which is
Okay, that does make
kind of
sense.
cool in a weird little trinket.
It's an
Yeah,
interesting historical curiosity at this
Well,
point. It's also very
but
hard to come by because of some rights issues.
yeah.
yeah, the whole affinity between Godzilla and birds, and that he can be guided by like migration,
Autism or
I
something.
don't think they
directional
tried that.
finding by magnetics, or what? I mean, does that continue on in any form? Is Godzilla?
No.
He
Only
doesn't
if
have
you
a.
Nope.
only if you count Rodan.
They yeah, true. They do not. Godzilla movies will throw some kind of scientific mumbo jumbo at the wall and see if it
Mhm.
sticks, and if it doesn't, they will drop it and
Okay.
move on, which is what they do with the whole migration thing. Uh,
Okay,
that
that
never
does mean
comes
I have
back.
seen. I did see the 1985 version because I specifically remember the whole using bird calls to draw him into a volcano
Yeah.
for the end of the movie. That was the last thing I had to comment on.
Which one of my favorite things about it is that he just chills in there and hangs out. He's like, "Oh, this ain't bad. Okay, I'm gonna hang out in here." And then 5 years later, he's like, "What's up? I'm back. Nothing happened. I lived in a volcano."
It was cozy. It was cool.
Wait, I thought it was that the terrorists like set off bombs to wake him up,
Yeah,
like
but
the
they already.
terrorist alarm clock.
But Miki already said that he was awake.
That's true.
I think he was coming regardless.
Mm.
Okay.
I don't
Okay.
know. That
Okay. That
was
was
my
the only other
impression.
thing.
It's a birth metaphor. Every baby is pissed off when it gets spat out.
Hmm.
All right. Well, let's move
Godzilla's just
on.
a cranky baby.
Let's move on to stuff we have seen in the last 2 weeks. Um, I'm going to go first this time because I never do.
Mm.
Go ahead.
All right. I kept my notes. I had a Shark Week. I watched. I don't remember the French. It was like something signed, but Under Paris, the shark
Ah,
movie, the French shark movie. Uh,
Oh,
Nobody's heard of it. It
if I'm,
is.
no.
I think you talked to me about it.
I've been meaning to see it. I just haven't seen it yet.
Imagine if somebody were telling you the plot to Jaws, but it's the description of every shark movie you've ever heard in your entire life in one movie, and you have this movie. It's weird and it's bad and it's not good. It's not. I'm not sure I would recommend it, but it's so bizarre because it goes from like uh oh my god, my whole family died. I'm a depressed, but now we have to save this shark and I have to be a good person again. To this shark is a fucking living killing machine with a super brain. And now it is stalking people like a goddamn serial killer, like an orca. Then at the end, it totally turns around and it starts following the shark and it turns into Maneater, the video game. The video
Okay.
game Maneater, where it's rushing around and CGI and everything, and then the movie's over, and it's I don't know, it's awful. So I thought, you know what, I'm gonna watch a movie that everybody has told me is terrible,
Oh boy.
and it'll maybe be a little bit better and it's in theme. So I watched The Meg 2.
Oh, okay.
Equally bad. Equally
Oh,
bad.
I,
It's
Not Ben Wheatley's finest hour.
no, no. Some of the most bizarre, like I didn't know whether I found certain parts funny because they were just cringe or because they were legitimately funny. But some of the slow motion, like having the Chinese CEO guy be like a super action star. Do you guys know anything about this movie?
I have
I,
not
I've,
seen. I've seen
I've,
haven't
half of Meg
I
One.
haven't seen either of the
I've,
Megs.
I've seen it.
So you know who I'm talking about. The Chinese Okay, the
Yeah,
Chinese CEO and the guy what's his name from the first movie? What's his
Jason
Statham.
Statham.
Chris Brown? Chris
Oh, yeah. It's a forgettable film.
It's a
Um,
yeah.
I,
Uh
I saw I saw it like 3 months ago, and aside from a couple of moments here and there, I have vague visual impressions of it. Um, I'm a little amazed that Ben Wheatley, the guy who directed Kill List and A Field in England, did that movie,
Oh,
except insofar as he really needed to get paid.
yeah, yeah,
This is his hacking on studio shit to show that he's reliable so he can make more studio shit.
yeah.
Uh,
It was just so bad. It's like every studio note from China came through and
yeah.
everybody was just like, "Yeah, sure, whatever. Fuck it." Yeah.
You know,
Yes, China is the greatest. You're right. Fuck it.
when there's somebody above the title who American audiences have never heard of. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's some interesting money moving around. Yeah.
That
Yeah.
series is made by China for China, and Jason Statham.
Now Statham, of
Anyway,
course, retains his dignity in everything.
yeah, he does.
Yeah.
He's never really, but he's always just Jason Statham at this point.
Yeah.
Uh,
The latter day Steve McQueen.
yeah.
Lots
So
of bad movies, but he's fine.
so I didn't like it. I didn't like that one. So then I saw Abigail.
What'd you
Um,
think?
I thought that Dan Stevens stole that movie, had a fabulous time. It's just amazing villain performance, just spot on, and the rest of the movie was trash.
Ooh.
I'll go with that. I liked it a lot up until the last 15 minutes,
Hmm.
where it's inexplicable heel turn followed by inexplicable face turn.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that it's a movie where they just honestly had no fucking idea how to end the movie. So they
Hmm.
just went with the first draft of the ending that they went with. But Stevens was just amazing. That line delivery for "That's a fucking onion" was probably the single greatest line delivery that I've seen since, I don't know, Kirk Douglas saying "I hate surprises" myself in Out of the Past back in 1949.
The problem with the movie is that the every piece of media, every what's it, trailer, everything, all of it, all showed what was going to happen. That it was. We all know what the thing, what it's
Hmm.
about, right? A vampire.
Yeah.
We all
Yeah.
know vampire. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. When they made that film, when they wrote it and shot it, it was not meant to be known that she was a vampire because the first 45 goddamn minutes of the movie is them feigning at her not being, like, not even trying to feign at her being anything. Like, if you had not seen the trailer, you flat out would not know that she is a vampire until about 40 minutes into the movie. And then you're
But
like, wait a minute.
but at the same time, how the hell does a studio with the
Sell that.
imagination that a studio's marketing department has
I.e.
sell
none.
that movie without
Yeah.
anybody knowing the twist?
I
It's
mean, that's
What
imagine
they
like
what they need to
it should have been an indie. It should have been an indie with a word of mouth, don't give it away type, approach to it.
Shane, what were you gonna say?
I was just saying, well, when it comes to marketing, like imagine if you didn't know that Hulk was in Thor Ragnarok. The movie was clearly set up for that to be a big surprise.
Mhm.
Then of course they have to sell it that way. But that would have been amazing to not know.
But they used to
Yeah.
not do that. Like many years ago, like 10 years ago, they would not give away every little thing. I guess 20, 30 years ago. God, 10
Well,
is
It
Also,
comes and
wasn't
goes in
let
cycles.
wasn't Terminator 2 made so you didn't know that Arnold was going to be good until he said, "Come with
yeah.
me if you want to live"? But then it was in all the ads. It was clearly made that
it
you weren't
was
supposed
it
to know
it
that.
was in the Guns N' Roses video. That's
Yeah, it
that's
was
what gave
all out.
that
It was
away.
all out there.
Yeah.
Remember that we are now living in a world in which trailers have a 4-second shot at the
Yep.
beginning that is a trailer of the trailer that gives away the point of the movie so that you will keep watching and not click skip so you can get past the damn ad into what you actually wanted to watch.
You know
So,
what I think might actually be able to be surprising of all movies is the new Deadpool movie because the sheer amount of references he jacks into those movies, there's no way they can get them all.
yeah,
That's the way to do it. Just put so much shit in there. They're like, "Wah, it's too much to
yeah.
report on." And
Or, I mean, running gags, or, there should be room for like genuine surprise humor in there.
yeah.
It's because you can't do a running gag in a. Well, God, you shouldn't try to give away a running gag in a trailer because the
Or
fact that it keeps going is good.
yeah. I
The
wish
prob-
they would go back to the trail to making trailers that are like shot for just the trailer with a voiceover or like this is that
It's
kind
just
of
the
thing.
title at the end.
thing with some portent.
Yeah. That wasn't a good example when I started talking there because it sounded like this is a story. I was and
In a
I
world.
always I always feel like I'm mocking it, but I'm actually being serious.
Only this time, he's after an escaped spy. You know, like you remember the trailer for U.S. Marshals, the sequel to The Fugitive.
Yeah.
Uh, a perfect example of the trailer giving away everything.
But
I didn't forgive the Warner Brothers marketing department for that for years.
I'm
Uh,
going back to I'm talking about like Texas Chainsaw Massacre kind of voiceover.
Oh,
oh,
put
like John Larroquette all the time.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes. Just
yeah.
as the
a
investigation
slow
continues.
dolly of that main room, and then cut in like 4 second frames of the horrible violence it has in it, and it's just a
Mhm.
slow, quiet thing, and it's like 5 people have kidnapped a 9-year-old girl, and da 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 da, and that's it. That's all you fucking do. That's
Mm.
scary, and Jesus, I mean, fucking,
Yeah,
I
Well, I mean, to give a nastier one, I mean, Last House on the Left, just keep repeating, it's only a movie. It's only a movie. You
exactly,
know.
exactly.
And one of the things I have for this week was because one of my other podcasts was covering it, I finally watched the Hudsucker Proxy,
Hey!
which
Hey,
yay!
the poster gives
Gives
away
away
a
yeah.
major joke of the film,
Yep.
possibly one of the most central jokes of the film.
you know,
Yeah.
okay.
And I knew about it when I went to see it, but if I ever show it for friends, I will say, okay, don't look at the poster. I'm just going to show you this movie. And our family for movie nights is slowly working through the Marvel movies, and I'm not going to give my daughter any hint that Hulk is coming up in Thor Ragnarok. So
Good
that should be
call.
great
Good
fun
call.
for her.
And of course, who
Unless
released
you,
the Hudsucker Proxy? Warner
unless,
Brothers.
well, unless you're watching on Disney Plus, and it probably splashes Hulk and Thor together.
Yeah, it's
I
like
think.
Well, that's why we do it.
they have
I
giant
have
eyes.
actually I have actually like pointedly started up the movie and paused it like just past the production credits on a couple of movies, specifically to avoid the fact that they give away stuff in the animated titles before you start the movie.
Yep.
So I
Yeah.
mean, someone's
We,
not thinking.
we live in an overly pre-spoilered age precisely because people will do hour-long dissection videos over 2.5-minute trailers.
Yeah.
Mm.
So yeah,
Uh
what happens if the trailer's not getting buzz? This trailer sucks. It doesn't give away anything. Loud people who don't actually understand art but are absolutely adept at producing content.
yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
Mm.
Anyway, I have one last one, so I'll stop taking up all the time.
oh,
I went and saw something in the theater, a little
woohoo!
theater in Tryon with my family. Amazing theater. It has a balcony,
Ooh.
which is
Nice.
awesome. And it's interesting because historically, the balcony there was meant for black people. Like they would say, you have to sit up on the balcony. You can't sit where the white people sit. And the ironic thing is, now everybody sits in the balcony because it's fucking better. It
Mm.
just is. It's the perfect vantage point. You're not craning your neck up. You don't have the potential as somebody in front of you. You're kind of looking down, and you can fuck with people down below. I so yeah, it's it was a lot of fun to watch this in that environment. I watched The Fall Guy. Anybody else watch it?
Yay!
I've
Yes.
seen it.
It's fun. It's not. It's. I have to say it's nothing monumental, even though it feels epic. Uh, it's cute. It is too long by about 20 minutes. It is when it's on. Like some of the references to like old Miami's Vice style television action programs with stunt people and whatnot. They make references to a bunch of those throughout the course, and of course they have Fall Guy people show up. What? Yes. Okay.
Did Did you notice that the movie that they're remaking is, or that they're making, is a remake of Metal Storm: The Destruction of Jared Sin? It retains the original tagline.
Yeah.
It's high noon at the edge of the universe.
Oh,
Wow.
Aaron Taylor Johnson,
Yes.
fantastic as a shitty villain.
Yes.
God, I think he should play more shitty villains. He's
Except for Craven the Hunter.
I don't want
Yes,
to.
no, let that go.
Yeah, I'm
That
not
was
gonna
cool.
watch that movie. I don't think.
Madam Web is on Netflix. I still haven't watched it. I
I've
did
been
watch
considering to
either.
watch it.
It's weird enough to actually be worth watching. The
Uh,
fact
I'll
that
get
it
around
exists
to
at all
watching
is
it.
so completely inexplicable. Uh,
Yeah.
yeah.
I recommend The Fall Guy. I think it's fun enough to give it a watch. Nothing monumental, so you don't have to rush out to see it. I don't think it really needs to be seen on the big screen, even though it feels more epic that way. And I mean, it's obviously better in a theater, but I don't think I'd go out of my way. Uh, Everybody did fine. It was a fine movie.
I like
Yeah.
Ryan Gosling in sort of post nice guys mode.
Yeah.
His character felt like a spiritual descendant of his character from The Nice Guys.
I need to watch that again. I love that
That
movie.
movie is so
Nice Guys
freaking
was
good.
fun. That
Yeah.
was a fun movie. Yeah.
Yeah,
That itself being a spiritual sequel to Kiss Kiss Bang Bang.
of course.
Yeah.
And anyway, that's it for me.
Yeah.
That's all I watched.
I came in late. I'll go last.
I have very little.
All right, go ahead.
I think my movie is from before 2 weeks ago because I'm still on my anime kick, and actually my movie is an anime movie on Netflix. I watched Suzume
Oh.
by
Oh, how is it?
the guy who made Your Name. I looked it up. Makoto
Makoto
Shinkai.
Shinkai.
I remember loving. I don't remember anything about Your Name. I remember loving it. Suzume. So there's actually an issue. The issue I had with Suzume is actually very similar to a minor nitpick I had about Biollante, where Erica dies right away, and then you're supposed to care about her, but you don't really get to know her.
Mhm.
And Suzume, there's a girl Suzume, and then this guy who's going on this kind of magical journey around Tokyo with her. Very early in the movie, he gets turned into a chair. Everything about him is still human. He talks, he walks, but he's a chair. And by the end of the movie, there's supposed to be, he becomes very important emotionally to her. It's all about the bond between them. There's like magical stuff happening. But I couldn't get past the fact that he was a chair, and I just wasn't really connecting with this character. There's a part, like, for instance, there's a part where he's like very cold and hungry, and Suzume puts a jacket over him. It looks fucking hilarious. This shivering chair, looking sad, and then Suzume putting not a jacket, but just like a cloth over this chair to keep it from being cold. But like beautiful film, very well animated.
Is it
Story,
is it supposed to be serious? Because I remember seeing a
yes.
trailer for this, and
Oh yeah,
Amelia and I were cracking up.
it's. I mean, it's got some goofy stuff. There's like an evil cat in it who may or may not have cursed this boy to become a chair.
Does the cat sharpen its claws on the chair?
No, I don't think so.
Because that's what evil cats do.
Yeah.
No,
That's what regular cats
I'm making it sound like a
I like
goofy ass movie. It's not. It's got some humor in it. It's got some little bit of anime slapstick to it, but it's a serious film. It's like a save the world movie. There's these evil or like supernatural things coming into the world through these portals, through these doors, and the chair guy, he is a closer who goes around closing these doors. And so they're kind of like road tripping around Japan trying to find all these doors, and they're being pursued by an evil cat, and he's a chair. It's on Netflix. It's like an hour and a half. It was all right. It wasn't. I remember really loving Your Name.
Yeah.
I remember hearing that the follow up to Your Name, which was Weathering with You, was not nearly as good.
I actually really liked Weathering with You.
Okay.
Like,
Haven't seen that.
This sounds like a movie made on a bet.
It really isn't. It doesn't.
Shinkai has an interesting relationship with whimsy.
Yeah, it doesn't play as goofy. It plays like if this was Ghibli, they would have made the chair thing work a little bit better. I think. I'm making it sound really stupid. It's really not, but it just didn't work for me.
Yeah,
then-
Shinkai is sometimes compared with Ghibli, but they have a very different vibe. The whole
Yeah.
turning somebody into a chair thing kind of feels like Shinkai trying to do a Ghibli thing and maybe not necessarily landing the gag.
It's got to be
Or
kind of cute and relatable. It can't be fucking
Right.
furniture. That's hilarious.
or
But
it
this is
could
also
be
it's also like
Shinkai.
it's also like a grown man as a chair. It's not a little boy. He's like 20 or something like
That's
that.
right.
It could be
It's-
it could be Shinkai trying to do Itagawa Rampo, but
It's
I don't know if yeah, Andy got that. There's a story called The
Damn.
Human Chair that Itagawa
well,
Rampo wrote that
Ah.
it's also Suzume's childhood toy chair, and it's missing a leg. So it's a three-legged chair, and it's a child's chair.
So a dude got changed into her childhood chair?
He gets like put into the chair or something.
It is a
yeah, it's
Rambo
Itagawa
reference.
Rampo.
But
Yeah,
then he could
totally.
like, but he could like walk around and talk and stuff like that.
But he's three-legged.
It's three-legged, so he
Itagawa
walks.
Rampo.
So he's
Side
a
note here.
rescue chair.
Side note here, Rampo is somebody that we really need to do a deep dive on this program sometime. In any case, if you guys
yeah.
have not seen The Mystery of Rampo in any of its 3 cuts,
I've seen at
that
least one.
that would be an interesting enough conversation in its own right.
Yeah,
Granted,
I
you've
am
probably
aware of
seen
it.
the only one that you can, because the original director's cut, I've never even found fan subtitles for it. I have it on tape with no subtitles, and it's very different from the version that got released everywhere else. But leaving that aside, Rampo is interesting, not just as a subject, but also, or as a subject of the movie, but also as a subject for adaptation. Like Rampo Noir is a great little anthology movie in its own right, if you've never run across that. The Watcher in the Attic is basically an adaptation of The Human Chair. Yeah, Rampo is worth. We should get into that sometime. Just side
Hey.
note.
Shane, what else you got?
Then I finished Demon Slayer.
Yeah.
As soon as the last episode dropped, they announced that it's going to be 3 movies to finish out the series.
Mhm.
Also inspired by my visit to Nate, I picked up this from Demon Slayer.
Yes.
Got this from Barnes and Noble. This is
Oh,
Kanroji.
nice.
And then because I opened the floodgates there, I also went to a Japanese store and picked up this guy, my
Oh.
main guy. I also finished a new show called Kaiju Number 8.
Oh.
Since we're watching Godzilla. It's only 12 episodes. It's on Crunchyroll. It's a lot of fun. It's about a guy. It's about a world where kaiju are just always attacking, and this one guy like gets a kaiju in his mouth, and now he can become a kaiju. He's a kaiju fighter, but he's the worst one on the team. Of course, he's a fucking dumbass. But now he can become a kaiju, and is also trying to hide the fact that he's a kaiju and trying to fight kaiju. It's a lot of fun.
I need to watch that.
Yeah, no, we probably need to give that a look.
I just
Yeah.
I just started reading a book that Jess threw at me, and it's called like the Kaiju health care team or something like that, or rescue
Grady
shelter.
Hendrix.
I think I don't know. She gave
That
me a
sounds
book and
like
said
Grady
start
Hendrix.
reading it, and it's amazing.
Does sound like Grady.
It
Yeah.
feels like Grady Hendrix. I didn't know he would have done anything about kaiju,
I
but
don't think it's Grady Hendrix, but it's very similar. She likes Grady Hendrix a lot. So
oh yeah, I knew that.
Oh
I
god,
don't know
who-
Grady
It's
Hendrix.
got that. The guy who wrote Paperbacks from Hell, but also
My best
uh,
friend's exorcism, which
Yeah.
was made into a
Friend's
movie
Exorcism.
recently that Jess hated.
Okay.
Horror Skewer. Um,
Okay.
Oh
yeah,
god,
no,
who wrote?
I didn't like the My Best Friend's Exorcism movie either.
Yeah,
It
who
was
wrote
not a
World
good
War
movie.
Z? It was somebody's son.
That was Max Brooks.
Brooks. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not Max Brooks, is it? He
Yeah.
probably do well with something like that. No, I mean for the kaiju book.
Oh no.
Okay.
It reminds me also,
I
I
think
know
it
I
was a
mentioned it a
woman.
while back, but I'm not sure any of you ever hunted up. You need to find What Do We Do with the Dead Kaiju.
Is that a movie?
Yes.
All right.
Anyway, that's all I got. I'm still just doing anime. I'm gonna
Cool.
try to have something
Okay.
new for next week.
Awesome. All right. Jenner.
Okay. Let's see. I know it's been a while, so I've covered a couple of the things that I've seen recently on the other show. But just a quick mention of Shudder's movie Perpetrator, just for being such a weird hybrid of subgenres. It's kind of like a young adult vampire or vampire adjacent, quasi-immortal-ish kind of, I don't know, they're like empathy vampires. It's kind of weird, but it's also weirdly funny, but they're also versus random silly serial killer. Uh, an incredibly a movie that is so tonally odd it's worth seeing just for the oddness of the tone of it all. And also to see Alicia Silverstone playing someone's great great aunt. Um,
Okay.
yeah. Strange little movie, but that's Perpetrator, which is a Shudder original. Worth a look. Still don't know if I think it was good per se, but it's interesting. Um,
That will
saw
be a no
Takashi
for me then.
saw Takashi Miike's JoJo's Bizarre Adventure Diamond
Oh,
is
yes.
Unbreakable adaptation, which I didn't actually know existed until not too long ago, but was trying to prep myself or getting back up to speed with Miike's output in anticipation of seeing Lumberjack the Monster, which I still need to see. And discovered that he did a JoJo's Bizarre Adventure movie, which was done for television, so it's not as out there as it wants to be, but still a pretty interesting piece of work in its own right, with spectacular hairdos.
Did anybody else watch the Phoenix Wright movie?
Yes,
No.
The
So
that
good.
was
Miike one.
that was a delight.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Now, Miike in adaptation can be really interesting.
Did he do a Doraemon one, or is that somebody else?
I don't think he did a Doraemon.
That would be crazy.
That would be
That
a
would
Takashi Miike Doraemon movie would be I don't even know how that would work. I don't even know how you do a three-dimensional visualization of Doraemon.
Well, I think it would be like a Sonic movie. I think something like that. I imagine.
See no reason to revise my prior statement.
Oh no, you don't want that one. That one has the ugly Doraemon.
Yes.
Let's see. I saw Kim Ji-woon's Cobweb, which is a movie about a 60s movie studio or 60s auteur trying to just being unwilling to give up on tweaking the movie he already shot. It's kind of interesting, and it's sort of a love letter to sort of scrappiness or the scrappiness of spirit for movie production, particularly sort of underfunded movie production. It's kind of a comedy. At the same time, the movie inside the movie is actually a lot more interesting than the movie itself. So it ended up being a bit slighter than it should have been, especially for an over 2 hour running time. Not to be confused with the other movie Cobweb from last year with Lizzie Kaplan and Anthony Starr, which actually had one of the more memorable movie monsters that I've seen in a while. That one's worth looking up. I just saw that a while ago. Aside from that, a lot of television. Shoresy season 3, great, full of heart, almost wept by the end. New season of Doctor Who, interesting. Needs to not cry so much. Also, if a season is only 8 episodes long, you cannot afford filler episodes like Space Babies. The season 3 of The Bear, not as nerve annihilating
I
as
haven't watched it yet.
as nerve annihilating as seasons 1 and 2, which is kind of like saying that this car accident killed less people than your last two.
Okay, I don't want to know anything about it. I haven't gotten around to it yet. I'm probably going to binge that.
Yeah, binge it. I did. Finally, I've been watching a couple of the 1940s Whistler movies based on the Columbia anthology series. So they're little hour-long programmers, all but one of which starred Richard Dix, who was the villain from
Sorry.
Vol Luton, the Ghost Ship, but a good character actor in his own right. So those are sort of interesting programmers. Ishana Night Shyamalan's The Watchers.
Uh-oh.
Oh, I'm curious.
Is that a new one?
That is a new one. That came out a couple of months ago with Dakota Fanning, who doesn't do enough, but she's always welcome when she does. Sort of an interesting setup. Once you realize that the movie is set in Ireland, which is not really a spoiler, they tell you directly right at the beginning of the movie. You pretty much know where it's going as far as what the Watchers are, kinda, sorta.
Okay.
It's not a bad movie. It's a movie that ends up being more interesting than good as a movie, just because I don't think that the writer director had enough nerve to adapt the novel that she was adapting into a more cinematic construction.
Have you read it? Jess read it, the novel, and she hasn't seen the movie yet, but she liked the novel.
I imagine it working terrifically as a novel. The thing is, it just ends up with about 3 too many endings in the way that a lot of sort of post Stephen King horror novels do.
Yeah.
Just didn't quite know where to cut it off and let it go. It feels like the ending feels like something that probably worked great on paper and needed a little bit more adapting to work as a movie. It's a movie where you're thinking the movie's about to end and there's still 25 minutes left of it,
Mhm.
uh, which feels like dodgy editing, but an interesting enough setup and an interesting enough piece of work. Guardedly recommended. And very sharply shot, which I know you can't necessarily give the director credit for, but at least sort of the well, visual style seems to run in the family, or at least or at least hiring quality visual stylists.
The director, at a minimum, did not get in the way.
That's well put. Well put.
Yeah.
So interesting piece of work. Not great, but not bad, and a bit better than I had been led to expect. Just reading some of the reviews for it.
Mm. All right, is that it? Is that all your guys? Wow.
Well,
Nope.
that's narrowing it. Well, actually, check that. I do have one other interesting thing, which is a super independent, uh, kind of haunted house movie called Campton Manor.
Hmm.
Which is one of those movies where it is so freaking obvious that some or most of the characters are ghosts to begin with that you're wondering what the twist is supposed to be, but it actually ends up working a bit more interestingly than that sort of thing usually does. And in the meantime, is buoyed somewhat by, say, a very solid turn by the often underused Jason London and the much missed character actor Kenneth Welsh. So a movie that could have been a lot less than it was, given something like a assuming that they knew the person who owned the estate in question and consequently didn't have to pay that much for it. Call this I don't know, about $8,000 worth of filmmaking, or worth of pay, making something like an $80,000 worth of look. So a better movie than it needed to be.
Huh.
Yeah,
All
worth a
right.
look.
All right.
Wagner, you're up.
All right. So my time has not exactly been my own, so my selection is a little weird and scattered. First, I want to mention that normally I didn't think to grab them before I came down here, but I would have had a couple of visual displays here. One of which was something I picked up out of the discount bin that I haven't watched yet, but from what I can tell, is a werewolf western that is called High Moon, and I
Have
just
that.
thought you
I
all
haven't
would
seen it. I
I
have
thought
not
you
seen
all
it
would
yet.
check out it.
Yeah.
How is
Things I have
High Moon?
I'm surprised
High
that hasn't
Moon.
happened already. Or
Yeah, well, it has happened
it has
now.
happened now, yeah.
Probably terrible. Um,
That was one of my Dollar Tree larks, so I've not gotten
yeah.
around to seeing that one yet.
So I'm off visiting the in-laws at the moment, and for some reason, they have gotten on a kick where we are watching the entire run of the Merlin TV series.
Hmm.
That we have
Wait,
marathon through 4 seasons at this point on BBC.
is that the one oh yeah, the one the newer one.
It was like a
The one where
prequel to the Merlin miniseries with Sam Neill.
I don't
Is it
know,
is
but it
it with
has.
does Merlin look a lot like Jenner?
Yes. Well, yeah, with hair, but yeah.
Oh,
Sorry,
he has
Kenneth.
hair. Oh.
Yeah.
The guy I'm thinking of is bald.
No, not him then. Um, Anthony Stewart Head is Uther Pendragon.
Oh yeah,
Right.
okay. Never mind.
Good
Yeah,
get.
it's the
It was.
Adventures of Merlin.
It showed on Sci-Fi here quite a
It
while back.
feels very like a sci-fi film.
Yeah, I think that
The
was designed to be like a prequel to the Merlin miniseries with Sam Neill. I think that was that thing's
yeah.
Which
deal.
was also disappointing in my opinion.
Yes. Yes.
Hmm. Well, it's okay, but I spend most of the time second guessing my memory of the Arthurian myths. And I'm like, that's not right. That's not right. Oh, wait, they're tying it in. Wait, am I remembering this wrong? Have I got it wrong this whole fucking time? Because I always get Morgana Le Fay and Mordeth like swapped around in my head, and I can't remember who's who. Um, well, it's been surprisingly pretty good, although I would not have wanted to marathon 5 seasons of it in about a week.
Feels like
Um,
a lot.
Yeah, I did. I have recently watched the Hudsucker Proxy for the first time. That was great fun. Um, Mostly for my love of His Girl Friday style dialogue with the
Bruce
absolutely
Campbell.
rapid fire. What's
Yeah.
that? Yes,
Bruce
and Bruce
Campbell.
Campbell.
Oh,
Bruce
and of course,
Campbell's in there and Charlie
the
Smith.
late great Bill Cobbs, rest in power.
Yeah, yeah, and oh shoot, who actually played Hudsucker who jumps out a window at the
Tim Rob.
beginning?
Oh,
Charles
Durning.
Charles Darning.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Charles Durning. Charles Durning. Yeah. He was great fun. Everybody was great fun in it. Um,
Sure, sure.
Once you get past a couple of the main jokes, though, it's entirely predictable where it's going to go. Yeah, you're not sure how you're going to get there, but you know where you're going to end up. Um,
I know
but
stopping
it
the
was
works,
fun together.
catching him in midair was a bit of a surprise, I have to allow.
Yeah.
I had somehow seen that moment previously, so that was spoiled for
I
me, as
managed to catch
well as
that
the
one.
thing that's spoiled by the poster, as well as the cameo by Bruce Campbell. So I had a lot of spoilers going into it,
You
which is
notice the
sad.
second unit director actually was Sam Raimi. He was the one who did the
Yeah,
whole bit of the hula hoop going down the street.
yeah,
He's also in the when they're coming up with the names, he's one of the it's
mhm.
Ivan and Sam are the two
Profile.
coming up with the names, and he co-wrote the
Mhm.
script.
Yeah, no,
Okay. Oh, I didn't
it's
realize
I
it's covered.
consider it the third film in the Hudsucker trilogy. The first one having been Crime Wave,
Mhm.
which was, of
Yeah.
course, directed by Raimi, written by Raimi and the Coen brothers, and set as a flashback from Hudsucker State Penitentiary. Um,
Oh, yeah.
there is a patch on the jumpsuit that M. Emmett Walsh is wearing at the beginning of Raising Arizona that says Hudsucker
Mhm.
Industries.
Yeah.
Mm.
And then of course there was that one, and of course Joel Cohen was the second unit director on Crime Wave.
Yep.
Um,
I need to rewatch Crime Wave.
Love
It's
that
Time
been
movie.
a
Wave is
while.
great fun.
Yeah.
I watched that not too long ago for the first time. Well, actually, not for the first time. I had one of those moments where you're like, "That's what I've been thinking of for years." When the
So I'm
woman,
a heel. What of it?
well, when the woman flees from the main thug bad guy into the security door warehouse,
Yes,
and is just
yes.
pirouetting down a hallway, closing doors behind her, and he's just going through each door head first. I remembered that, but I had only ever seen it in isolation.
The first time I
Lady,
saw
you
Crime
ain't
Wave,
seen nothing
it was
yet.
it was a recording off of an HBO screening when it came out on HBO that Don showed me. Uh,
Oh.
That was how most people saw that movie for the first time because it was an
I,
early PG-13, which meant that they could run it in the afternoon on premium cable.
it also had no pan and scan or letterboxing.
Ooh.
So you got to see like I thought it was part of the joke. I was like, this
Yeah.
is so avant-garde. You could see like all the lattice work and you could see like all the everything that's like behind the scenes. You could tell it's cardboard and it's all fake. No.
Well, you notice that Raimi let the same thing happen with the original full-frame VHS transfer of Evil Dead 2.
I still have that
Oh,
one.
yeah.
Yeah, it's great. That's the one
I
where
feel like he was letting that go on purpose.
yeah. Yeah,
He
I
would
think
do that.
so. I
He
mean,
would
it's
do that.
funny. It's very
Yeah,
funny. I like it.
yeah.
Uh,
In a in a weird carry on from that talk of Evil Dead, I also watched Grave Encounters for the first time
oh,
while I was here, which was it just happened to be on Prime for free. I have had Grave Encounters 2 on my wall for years, but the first movie is damn hard to find on physical, at least where I'm looking. So I had always needed to watch it before I could watch my own copy of the sequel. Grave Encounters is really, really good. Are any of you familiar with it?
I'd
I
heard that was a found footage thing. Yes.
Yeah.
I've been seeing a lot of posts about it recently. I guess maybe
Must
it's
be floating
just
around the zeitgeist.
yeah. I think
Yeah.
so.
It is a found footage. It's a ghost hunting troupe, for a TV show, and for their sixth episode, they go to a state mental asylum that was an overflow for the Danvers mental asylum. Yeah, which was featured in session 9, of course.
Yeah.
And it's a like reality warping, spooky shit in the corners, found footage film. It just happens to be done really well.
Oh.
And it has um shit, I had a good comparison that I was going to draw to it and I didn't write it down, so now it's completely gone, but it's one of those where you're watching the film and all of a sudden they start breaking the rules. Like not their internal rules, but like the rules of the space they're in, because at one point the remaining people who one of the members has gone missing, spooky shit is happening, so they all just gather together inside the front door and wait for the sun to come up. This is what people who are trying to ruin your D&D game do when they refuse to explore the spooky corridor, right? Except they wait there for like 8 hours and there are windows around them and the sun never comes up. So
Mhm.
all of a sudden, we're in a completely different environment. We don't know. Something broke the rules here. Something broke the rules of the world as we understood it. And then they break through the whole shtick was they get chained inside the asylum. They put a chain on the front door so they can't leave early and they have to do their spook show thing. They break through, and when they break open the front doors, they're just in another hallway.
Mhm.
And so yeah, so oh, we're fucked.
I'm gonna show this to Amelia. She loves found footage movies more
Okay.
than anything.
Really.
There's
It's not gonna matter. She's seen Hell of a Boss and Has Been Hotel.
yeah, no, I'm saying that I don't think there is anything like particularly adult in nature beyond the horror stuff. There's no creepy sex shit or anything like
Yeah.
that going on in there. But it's creepy asylum, there are ghosts running around, there's spooky objects, shit like that.
Hmm.
And it ends poorly for everyone involved, but you could have guessed that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's that
Highly
already matters.
recommend as far as a found footage film goes.
I'm gonna
So I'm
see
looking
it.
forward to watching my copy of the second one.
Mhm.
Cool. That
And
reminds me. Because I think that's it for you, right? Or do you
I
have
had one
more?
more, but
One more? I'll just say, just on the side, I watched. I forgot that I watched Hell of a Boss and the first season of Hell of a Boss and
mhm.
Has Been Hotel, and
Okay.
I like them both very much.
I still need to catch up on those.
Yeah.
I
Um,
Yeah, we still joke about the infectiousness of the songs in Hell of a Boss.
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh
Yeah.
my God.
Yeah.
And in my opinion, the Fitzaroli's 2 minutes notice is a
Yeah.
dangerous song because I like my job, but I kind of wish I didn't because that is possibly the best exiting the room backwards with both middle fingers raised song I've ever heard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it makes me want to quit a job that spectacularly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just great show. Great show.
Yeah, yeah.
So Amelia is, of course, hooked to both of them. I could not keep her away from them. I
Yep.
know. I know.
So he did get through Poison.
Yeah. No, I didn't let her watch that.
Yeah,
I didn't let her watch that
that's
one.
that's
That
the
one
one
was
point I'd
rough.
say. Yeah, that's rough.
Yeah.
It's very rough.
Even though there's like S&M anal sex throughout Hell of a Boss, and that's like somehow the tamer one because it's kind of cartoony. And
Yeah,
it's like Cool World almost, and she loves that show. So
I'd say
whatever.
it's tamer than. Well, it's not as nasty as Cool World.
Yeah,
Nasty
yeah.
as in
It doesn't
unpleasant,
feel
not nasty as
slimy and
weird.
gritty. It doesn't feel like
Should
you
have
Mhm.
been
come out with
nastier than
like
it was.
yeah,
Mhm.
Cool World
Yeah,
should have been the horror movie it was supposed to be in its original screenplay.
yeah,
Before I guess it
Hollywood.
was Frank Mancuso started seriously dicking around with it, and in the meantime, Bakshi, said screw it, and took out most of his pay in Blow. Um,
yeah.
Admittedly, I like Cool World.
I
I
wanted
I've
like
to
never
it
like
seen
Cool
it.
for a
World. Good
while.
lord! I mean, it did kind of cement Brad Pitt's career after Thelma and Louise.
Brad Pitt. I like Foive. Usual Suspects.
Gabriel Byrne.
Gabriel Byrne. That's where I first became aware of him. and I really liked him in it. He tries so hard to make it
Tries
not
so
a
hard, but
weird, shitty movie, but it's
Mhm.
so he's like real acting the whole way. Even though you have like cartoon Kim Basinger unbuttoning his pants, he's like shuddering, and then you have like this shaky, rotoscoped Kim Basinger on top of it. It's just really, oh, what a movie that is! That is such a unique piece of what.
he really
It's a
needs to film the original screenplay one of these days.
Mm.
That's all I'm saying on
mm,
that one.
I have a proposal. I kind of like the idea of doing two movies still, but
all
I
right.
also kind of like having those 2 weeks to do them. I kind of like that schedule. If you all are okay with it, if we could do a 2 movie, 2 month, not month, 2 week, every other week, uh, timeline
I kind
going
of like
forward
that.
for the Heisei at least.
I kind of like that idea.
Yeah, because we got a holiday weekend coming up too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
So I believe the next one is Godzilla versus King Ghidorah.
Yay.
Uh,
It's just the
And
next
then
two in the
and,
Heisei
and
period.
Mothra.
and then Mothra, yeah. So
Yay.
Godzilla versus King Ghidorah, followed by Godzilla versus Mothra. This is where we start kicking into high gear in the Heisei
This is the one.
period.
This is the one where where the movies found their feet, and the one where they found their audience.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Well, I'm gonna call it there for everybody. Good night.